This is Money Mind's Dollars and Cents segment on CNA938. I'm Wui Lynn with Stanley Leong. Singapore's housing market has been heating up in recent months. Analysts say this is driven by BTO construction delays, the low interest rate environment, and rising demand from investors who are anticipating further price growth and an improving leasing environment.
But can we really expect further price growth? Will there be an adequate tenant base? And how viable are properties as an investment amid the uncertainties caused by COVID-19? Well, joining us for this discussion right now is Mr. Boon, author of The Landlord Club, Untold Strategies to Maximize Rental Property Returns. And with more than 15 years of experience, he's also a senior group division director leading a team of real estate salespersons. And on our program today, if you've got questions along the way, we welcome your calls and thoughts and comments through to 669-11938, the number to call us. If you'd like to text us, it's 963-11938. Mr. Boon, thank you for joining us today.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Nice to be here. Hello.
I like your backdrop. Very nice river feature that you have.
Yeah.
And sometimes, we do look for properties along water bodies. But let's talk about property investments in Singapore right now. Are they looking lucrative, or are the best days behind us or still ahead of us?
This is a very good question, and lots of buyers will actually ask this. And what we can see on the ground now is still a vital investment option, but caveat emptor, because coming in is actually the low interest environment that causes all this pent-up demand itself. And what we are
sorry, do carry on.
Yeah. So higher risk will come with a higher gain. So just bear in mind when making any investment, you need to really calculate what you have and what is your investment angle. Because lots of them look for capital appreciation rather than positive cash flow at this moment.
Right. And we all know that when it comes to property, it's always good to choose one in a good location near an MRT station, but these are likely to cost a lot more. What if we're on a tight budget and we can't afford such properties? How can we go about choosing the next best thing?
The next best thing we can look out, you might able to look out is like for schools, international schools like American schools in Woodlands, and also French schools is at Ang Mo Kio. So they are actually slightly away from MRT station. And this is provide another option for investor looking for rental units that they actually can provide some cash flow for their selection.
Yeah, and what about United World Southeast Asia, right? United World College in Tampines.
Yeah. So there's a misconception about rentability and rental yield. You might get very good rentability, meaning to say there will be no vacant period during the transition. You are able to rent out within days, or even there's a new tenant waiting for you. But rental yield can be for your particular unit. The figures might not be so high, but you get a very good rentability.
So thus far, if I'm hearing you right, you're suggesting look for all these international schools, because these institutions will at least provide you with possibility a ready tenant, not just the students on their own, of course, but with families in tow as well.
Yeah, that's one of the options. But of course, location, that's what they always say. But because of tenant normally don't drive in Singapore. And the type of tenant coming in will be actually on the new economy, like the gig economy, the tech economy, all this. So they tends to be like single or couple. So they don't have big families like old days, you come with the aspect package, all this. So the other option is to look out for schools, special features like schools, or even the backdrop Sentosa. Somebody that like the lifestyle there, they want to rent there, but the prices that they can afford is not at the moment.
So the kind of tenant you're targeting also will affect the size of the unit that you want to buy, doesn't it? Because if you're targeting families with children who go to school, surely you would need to fork out more for a bigger unit.
Yeah, certainly. So you can see the prices will move out from the central core. If let's say in the town, you might just able to get a 1-bedroom, but moving forwards towards the Woodlands side or the suburban side, you actually can get a bigger unit. So it depending on which area you are looking at, and most important is actually your budget, and how much do you want to invest, and how much you want to fork out for this investment product.
What are your thoughts on the Punggol Digital District? Of course, that's still in the works, and then they're building it up over in the Northeast. Would a property in that area also be a good idea? I mean, we're also now looking at working professionals?
That's an interesting question. Okay, because I think we have a lot of Malaysian counterpart, they are being stuck during this timing. Rental, we have seen that, let's say for 3 bedrooms in Woodlands or even Sembawang, they are very, there's a lot of competition. They wanted to rent that unit. They actually have company list all this. So no one have the magic ball. So I only can say that if you still believe in Singapore properties, location is actually one of them, but the overall market is still pretty strong on that.
Now, is a real estate salesperson necessary if you want to handle the tenants, or is there any risk in handling the transactions and the marketing myself or oneself?
There's lots of DIY website at this moment where you actually can put up your property posters, you can put up your listing, you can do at your own pace. But the thing is, there's a lot of regulation checks to be done, such as the passport, the work permit, all this. So if let's say you have engaged a real estate salesperson, they actually need to go through all this for you. But if let's say you are doing by yourself, you need to check all this in person by yourself itself. So it's depending on whether you want to pick it up all this by yourself. That's one thing.
Okay, if I choose to rent out, I might look for Wui Lynn. She might be able to handle it.
I don't think so.
I think it's a lot more hassle free, I suppose, if you go through an agent who also knows the inside out and the common areas where you may overlook all the
Yes.
regulations and such. And I think that's where property agent would definitely be most handy. All right, so let's talk about now what we should consider when, apart from choosing where we want to perhaps buy a property to invest in and rent out, when choosing a tenant, what are some considerations there that you would advise our listeners on how to choose a tenant?
The thing is, if let's say you have engaged a real estate salesperson, he or she will be doing the viewing itself. There's very few opportunity that you can meet up with the tenant. You can talk to them. During the conversation, you actually can size them up and see how they move themselves, how they talk. That will actually reflect on their behavior. Just within a short span, it's like a first impression counts. But if let's say you are choosing them, it all depending on the product, because they might come in during this period. It might be under a corporate lease or personal lease, and it comes as a package. So you might have a corporate lease but lower renter. You might have a personal lease, higher renter. Then you decide whether you want to have the corporate lease itself. Corporate lease itself might provide you a better stability in terms of payment wise. Personal wise, I have good and bad sides of both tenancy before. So there's no preference on that. As long as the price is right, landlord is comfortable, I think the deal is done.
Yeah.
Mm.
I've also got a follow-up question on that. I know of some homeowners who would like to be around when these prospective tenants come through to take a look at viewing, and some who would rather be totally out of the house and let either the domestic helper be the one to open the door and let them in and the agent in, and they don't want to have any face-to-face meeting with a prospective tenant. It's just easier for bargaining and such, I think. What are your thoughts? Should you be around when prospective tenants come through the door?
Okay, I see. Okay, most of my landlords that we encounter, especially for locals, they actually do not, they are the type that actually will not appear. So they actually rely a lot on real estate salesperson to give them a background, a impression of how their new tenant would be. I think it's also good to have a middleman so that they can be the bad guy in case of anything happen. Okay, so some landlord would like to appear. So it all depending on landlord, whether they would like to show up every time the viewing, or they would like to take a step back and also let the agents handle.
This is Money Mind's Dollars and Cents segment on CNA938, and we're speaking with Mr. Boone, who has more than 15 years of experience in the property sector. He's also the author of the Landlord Club, Untold Strategies to Maximize Rental Property Returns. If you have any questions for him, call us at 669-11938, or you can text us at 963-11938. Now, Mr. Boone, the whole point of an investment property is, of course, to make money out of it. Should we go to the expense of furnishing the property or renovating it? What are your thoughts?
We will actually do a benchmark. If let's say for 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, we'll strongly recommend landlord to furnish the unit itself. Now furnishing is actually pretty cheap. You actually can buy from AliExpress, Taobao, all this. You can make the house look like a show flat. This will give a very good first impression for the tenant. So as you can see that they might be choosing some units or multiple units in the same projects in terms of all the new condos, and this will actually give them a competition edge above other units. But for those bigger units like 3 bedroom, 4 bedrooms, we'll normally recommend partial furnish at this moment and let the tenant decide. Okay, main thing is because the tenant might have their own preference. Renting 3 bedrooms, 4 bedroom, most likely they are family type. So they might be traveling for another country, moving to Singapore. Sometimes they have their container for furniture moving around. So we'll normally suggest bigger units, partial furnish, smaller unit, fully furnished.
Now, I've seen those tenancy agreements before, and they are many, 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 many pages long. What are the important aspects of a tenancy agreement that we must definitely know we're signing or putting our initial to before we have that tenancy agreement firmed up?
First of all, I think tenancy agreement is actually a private agreement between landlord and tenant itself. Good thing is the Council of Estate Agent have came up with a template, and it's pretty good. Most of the real estate salesperson are using that. But on the ground itself, between landlord and tenant, beside the price, the duration, I think some of them is like the minor repair clause. Okay, minor repair clause and also aircon servicing. So typically, aircon servicing will be back to the tenant. But if let's say the tenant is a big corporate and they have budget for that, landlord will pick up the aircon servicing. Minor repair will be actually due to fair wear and tear. There will be actually a cost on that, X figure. Let's say, example, about 150 or 200. So this is for negotiation between landlord and tenant itself. The thing is, I think tenancy agreement is subjective. Is between both party. Good to have a draft and bring both tenant and landlord back to the common ground and understand the tenancy agreement, because they might be coming from another country. What you think might not be what they think. So that's the difference.
And what should the homeowner bear in mind when he or she hands over the rental property? Is there a need to maybe take photos of every single room so as to ascertain the condition of the property when it was handed over?
Strongly suggest to have a property condition report and take photograph videos of what is the current status, because end of the tenancy a lot of dispute is because of the fair wear and tear. If imagine I'm the owner itself, I will score my property at maybe 8 out of 10. But when you pass over to the tenant itself, the tenant might not think that it's so good condition. And this will actually happens, a dispute might happen is at the end of the tenancy, where the fair wear and tear clauses will come into effect, saying that I have taken good care. Then the photograph will show what you have done and what's the condition at that time. And both party must have a set of the photographs or even videos, and proper documentation is needed for that to bring them to the common ground so that they can start from the same position at the moment.
All right, Mr. Boone, this question has come in from our listener who would like to know what happens if the tenant is engaged in illegal activities and is under a corporate contract.
So will the landlord, I wonder, be taken into task if this were to be discovered?
The tenancy agreement should have covered all these relevant clauses. And if let's say there's really illegal activities being found, then I think straight away you can go through the proper procedure like reporting to police. And it depending on how agents work or how the landlord want to solve. Normally, I would suggest a soft approach first, because you can straight away call the tenant, hey, we have made a police report, or somebody have made a police report. So either you move out by yourself by a certain date. If not, I will actually report to police and I will actually apply to the court order and actually evict them. So sometimes soft approach. Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So sometimes I would suggest that going by soft approach first, you just highlight to the tenant and just tell them, hey, you done something wrong. I want you to pack up and leave by a certain date. At least I can taking over will be much easier rather than being forcefully going in through the court order or with the police. Or this will become very hectic on that.
Well, that's the case for illegal activities. But what if the tenant just doesn't pay you the rental? Will the police get involved in such a case?
Not at the moment, as what I know. And very frank, over my years of experience, very grateful and also happy to say that there's not much of monster tenant. I will say them. I address them as monster tenant. So far, so good. There's only one case in my experience. Landlord went down to speak to the tenant itself, and after 2 months or 3 months of defaults. So if let's say you need to have a practice for landlord every month to check the accounts whether the money is coming in. If first month is late, it's actually a habitual. If let's say they are late, you need to follow up with the agent or the tenant to see why it's late itself. So if let's say second month is in this way, it raises a red flag. So you need to really keep on the ball rather than default for many months. Then you decided, hey, enough is enough. So you do it at the front rather at the back. So police will not be involved. Then if let's say they have stayed there several months, then you really need to go through the legal means or even to have a court order to move them out. So I will not wait until then. That is too late. I will normally keep track every month. I will just remind landlords or landlord themselves must really keep track of their bank account, rental, is it coming in, all this. Straight away address the problem rather than become a big one behind.
That's right. Always checking on the credentials as well of the possible tenant there. Mr. Boon, thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Boon is the author of The Landlord Club, Untold Strategies to Maximize Rental Property Returns. And this book is available at major bookstores or at candidcreation.com. Thank you, Mr. Boon, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Before making any decisions based on the information in our program, please consult your own financial advisors to take into account your investment objectives, financial situation, and individual needs.